Order at 5:45. Welcome, everybody. We have some revisions for October's minutes. Everyone should have received those in an email. And I will take a motion to approve the revision. Don't all jump at once.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We also have the minutes from our November meeting. And hopefully you've taken the opportunity to read those, and I'll take a motion to accept those. Mm-hmm. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, as far as the elections go, Cynthia has reached out to some people on becoming chair and or vice chair. She can't be here tonight, but, the elections will be next meeting. So, legislative requests, I'm not really sure where we are with that. I know one of the things that I want to do is try and get some money from possibly the state folks. That, for those of you that don't know, there are times that Assembly and Senate folks get discretionary funds, and I'm hoping that they can help pay for our, I don't want to call it a party, but our recognition and event this spring, since we do have a big anniversary coming up, and we do want to celebrate. I think we're going to the Nancy Cantor Center. It's up on Fayette Street.
30 years, right?
30, yep. We're kind of working out details with them as far as insurance and stuff like that, so that everything's the way it's supposed to be, and more news will be coming on that front in January.
Yes, and we have thought about some of the things that we would want to submit as our legislative requests. We met with Richard and Lori, and we'll circulate those to the board, but in general, we know the needs of the CRB and what we're trying to do, and so we would just be putting that on paper in the legislative ask for some additional funding, so that all of our funding would not be coming from the city of Syracuse, but it would be funded some other way. So.
Renee?
All right, so in terms of the activity report, we have 10 cases to review in executive session. Some of those cases were investigated by our private investigator, and we're moving forward. We have several hearings that need to be scheduled as it relates to our cases that the board has voted to a hearing. Please, everybody, work with us so that we can get these scheduled because we really need to, proceed with those. So we had 5 community engagement events in the month of November. 4 of them were in the 4th Common Council District, which makes up about 36% of all of the complaints for which we have data from the years of 1994 to July of 2022. We participated at Tucker Missionary Baptist Church for their Full Life Festival. We participated in the neighborhood walk with the mayor's office. We participated in Prevention's Network, the Net That Works, through the Youth Substance Abuse Coalition. We also participated in Know Your Status with Faces and Jewels out of the Southwest Community Center or Syracuse Community Connections. We also attended the Gratitude Networking event as it related to World AIDS Day and recognition of the people who have survived and those who we have lost. So we did that. We received 4 new complaints in the month of November, and we have 8 hearings to schedule. In terms of training, we had 8 virtual sessions of NACO from November 2nd through the 9th. and we have some upcoming community outreach that we will be able to report on in November. So we've been quite busy. I'd like to take the time to recognize our in-house office staff. I'd like to recognize Anthony Hurd. He is our newest community engagement specialist. He will be coordinating all the community engagement as it relates to the board. We have Michael Britton, who was our legal secretary and is now our data analysis. So I want to make sure that we mention those. We continue to have our private investigator, Freeland Investigation Services, continue to investigate cases for us while we continue to revamp the day-to-day operations of the CRB. We know that we will be moving out of the current CRB office sometime next year. So currently we have kind of a split office going on between our office and Focus to accommodate our staff. We have our intern, Grace, who her internship will be done at the end of this month. She has been very helpful. She has revamped our brochure, created the QR code. She has also continued to help us in preparation for our 30th acknowledgement event.
Last day was yesterday, sorry.
Last day was yesterday.
Okay.
But she has been very helpful. She comes to us from Professor Reether's class, the political science class through Syracuse University. And it's always a pleasure to host them, and we get quality work from them.
And she did come to a few of the
Yes.
community engagement events, which was fun too, to have her at those.
And she did some research for us in comparison to some of the other CRBs, and that we will be able to utilize as we prepare for a budget season coming up in about February, March of next year. So I wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity. We are going to also have some fellows that are going to be coming on board part-time for our office. We're going to have a community engagement fellow, which is going to assist Anthony in some of the community engagement events and the board as it relates to that. And we have funding for another fellow that we are going to also create, and we haven't decided as of yet as to what fellow that might be in terms of their work. Would that be a policy analysis fellow? Would it be someone who is just a regular, who is going to help Michael with the data? These would be part-time positions, $15 an hour, working 20 hours a week.
I'm trying to know, where are you getting your leads from?
Leads in the people that we hire. Well, we still posted on Indeed, the same place that we have posted all of our positions. Our legal secretary position has also been posted on Indeed, and has been circulated for us to hire another legal secretary. So we have all of those things kind of happening. I guess, if you look at where we were, and where we're going, in terms of the number of staff, all of these things will help continue to promote some of our legislative requests and, moving forward to the next budget season.
Okay.
In terms of office and stuff, I know eventually we're gonna be moving to One Park Place. One of the things that we talked about at the police liaison committee meeting was space there, and making sure that there's enough space. And I just want to put it out there that we need to make sure that they understand we have a need for an interview / hearing room. One of the things that has been discussed is the fact that when someone is designing office space and putting people in office space, they look to make things look pretty and nice and convenient, and they'll like say things like, gee, it's really nice that we've got this open space with windows, and and we need to have something that doesn't have windows so that people feel secure when they're in there, that not everybody walking by is going to see that they're in a hearing.
So I will
maybe we
be
can work
honest
together with
and
them.
let you know that I've not seen the office space. I've just heard about it. I've expressed what we will need in the new office space, which would include a conference room to have our hearings in, which would include enough space to have all of our office staff in the same place, an intern, a space for our intern, all of that, and I've expressed all of that, but I have not seen what it's going to look like. But we can definitely continue to communicate with Eric Ennis, and Corey Driscoll, as it relates to that, but I have expressed what we need, because when we were looking for space for Anthony and, Michael, we had to utilize space that is not in our office, but connected to our office because of this very reason. So they are aware of the staff spacing, but I'm not sure what the space looks like. They did tell me that they were having build outs so that it will be, cohesive. I'm not sure how many offices that will, what that really means, but that's what I've been told. And so we just continue to communicate with them and see where we, what it all looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Is this building secure?
The one Park Place is the one that's right there near the diagonal from the sheriff's office, by where the Verizon building is. And they will have security just like they have here at the city, because that's what everybody has sort of requested. So they will have a designated place where people will have to come in, still have to go to the, where the screening, they will have to come in through the metal detector, and things of that nature. And our office is supposed to be somewhere on the first level. So because we are typically, and ops is supposed to be on that same level as well, because we typically have the most people coming in and out, opposed to having us up on another floor and having people walk around to other floors and
So
things
our
of that.
meetings will go there instead of here?
No, our monthly meetings would remain
Oh,
here.
okay,
It's
okay.
just our hearings. We, as you know, we've had to coordinate our hearings in different places and things of that nature, and it's in hopes that we can have it somewhere where it's right in our office space, so that we won't have to worry about somebody else's schedule when we're trying to schedule hearings and worry about that overlapping and things of that nature. But that's what the request is going to be.
Okay, committee reports, community outreach and public education. We've had listening sessions, we've had several. I will say my bad experience, but will hopefully turn into a good one, was I was scheduled to do one at Kirk. And I got there and they have the after-school program at Kirk, and the woman who was running the after-school program did not know that I was coming. And she would not let me in, and I as I said to Renette, she was very protective of those children, and I applaud her for that. It was very much, hey, I can't let you in.
What time did you go?
4. She was just about to serve some sort of snack meal kind of thing, and she said, unless my boss tells me that someone's coming, I don't let
Call
them.
Jesse after that, or?
Yes, we reached out to Jesse, and Anthony has a update as it
Okay.
relates to that.
So starting January 4th, as of right now, every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30, I'll go to each center and have my community engagement sessions at each center for 5 weeks, because they only have 5 centers open for program right now.
Okay,
I'll just go every Wednesday until I complete the
cool, that's great. Yeah, so I mean, it was certainly just a miscommunication at that point.
My son works there too.
Yeah,
Son,
Yep, so that is another reason why we wanted to have a community engagement specialist.
Correct.
It's the perfect opportunity to continue to push that, and why we needed that, because we needed somebody that was dedicated to making sure that we could get there and schedule pertinent times. Again, I'm still gonna encourage the board members to pick a Wednesday that you might be able to come with Anthony to attend these meetings and whatever he has on the schedule, but we all know that we have different requirements. Some of these things happen during work hours, and it makes it unable for certain people to come, based on work schedules and things of that nature. But, we'll still encourage you to please come out and attend, because it's nothing like the community seeing who's on the board.
Anthony has a question for you.
And I just wanted to add, we implemented with Mr. Brantley that parents are welcome. So it won't just be the kids, parents will be sitting in as well.
That's good.
Does CRB have a Facebook or Instagram?
We have a Facebook page and we do have an Instagram page because Grace helped us get an Instagram page, so we have that now. And so we are we're working to continue to update that, and Michael has a report on our website.
Okay.
Michael, report on the website.
That was a statement. I apologize. Yes, no, so we've gotten in the last 2 weeks new complaints through the website. So there's links there so that people can use our QR code and see something that says, hey, to file a complaint, you can do it through mail, you can do it through email, this, that. And there's a link there where people can file complaints. And we have had in total since September, maybe 4 that came through the website. So it's
Good.
It's gaining traction, yeah. And all the meeting agendas, minutes are being uploaded as much as I have access to. And the ones that are not readily available, I'm scouring through old files and copying it through the scanner and making sure they're there.
I just have a question for Michael. Is there like a link for this meeting for them to view this meeting virtually if they on the website?
Yeah, so I also include links for, if you go just to syr.gov, you will see our meetings there. You will see a live link. But if you go to our page, it's also there too. You click on it, it just brings you to the main city syr.gov YouTube page, but you should see CRB there.
Okay.
I'm still working with IT to make sure that all of our videos end up in a playlist, as it's called, for the CRB. Last time I hassled them, yes, it's there. This most recent meeting from last month, not there. So I may have to reach out again, I may have to continue to go through. But yes, our meetings are live there on the website. Our complaint form is there live on the website. And information about just, the CRB in whole. And shortly we will have information about the staff, myself and Anthony, live, but not yet.
And we are also creating a calendar on the website so that when you go on our website, you should be able to see a calendar and it'll show you where we're going to be at particular time. So we're working to get that up and rolling as well so that people can see a calendar and see where we are.
Calendar for the county council meeting.
Right, and and if you were to go on there today, it does show our meeting, but I mean on the CRB's website page itself, we are also gonna have a calendar. Because none of our community engagement events will make the city's calendar, which is where you would see the CRB meeting listed, but on our page, you'll see our community engagement activities, so people will know what we're out in the community doing.
Is this to the website?
I didn't see that.
Let me see.
Cause I don't see anything.
I didn't see it.
Yep, so if you go.
So we're in the transition from syr.gov.net to syr.gov. So that could be a part of.
So it might already happen.
Sorry?
So it might already took place, or?
I think it did happen.
Well, I update the website.
You did.
I do that, yeah.
Right, but if you originally type in that first CRB, you pull up the old website, which is the problem. So we have to continue to work with it to get the word out that you can't use CRB, you know what I mean? You can't use the old way. You have to put that other part of it.
The old thing
Because
is-
when I
it's
type it
pretty
in,
much been done away with. It's really syrgov.net.
see, when I type in Citizens Review Board there,
The old
now
one's
you
not- it's
can
almost
pull
not
it
even
up.
The old one's not even functioning. really.
So someone has to go on the city website, literally type in Citizen Review Board, and then they're able to.
Yeah, because
We don't
that's.
have a link.
So John, yeah, unfortunately, the new link is syr.gov/department/citizen-review-board. It's no longer, it used to be really straightforward, but it no longer.
So why we can't,
We're working on it.
okay, why we can't, get funds to get our own CRB domain and website? It's only $350.
Because-
Why we can't just
Because
go-
they were trying to, the reason why they did this whole citywide revamping of the website was to try to combine all city departments, because the police department used to have their own management and things of that nature. And so what they tried to do was now put everybody on this same platform in order to be like, almost like a one-stop shop. But we're continuing to work with the content editors and continue to, you know what I mean, see what works day to day in order to, you know what I mean, make sure we get to where we used to be. And so right now, we're kind of not there, which is why most of our materials, we've been having to update and put the new website on the bottom, because it's not as widely known as may have been thought about in terms of how the new website is rolling out. But you'll see, when you get to the CRB page, you'll see all of your names on there. You'll see your bios will be on there, and you'll be able to see terms and things of that nature, minutes, old reports, and all of that. But we've been working with the city in terms of content editing to make sure that we get that together.
Michael, the only thing that I questioned on this was why the Citizen Review Board is listed under departments and not under boards. And I don't know.
So that was a very interesting conversation that we had many times, because the way the city looks at boards is very different than they look at departments.
Right.
And so it is almost taboo how our department runs, because we are a department, but we are not a city department. We're a department that falls under the council, but you are a board. So if they had it in two separate places, it would be confusing as well. And so even when we were building the website, we had some portions where they had us under the boards and some portions where they had us under the departments, and we've been working with them to streamline it. So that is something that we recognize is very confusing, and we're trying to figure out exactly, but the boards are different than us being technically a department.
Okay.
I think for
But you're not a department head.
perception,
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Let's not go there.
Okay.
for
Tonight.
perception, for people who aren't in the know, I think separation is not a bad thing. Because what happens is when people link, they can go on the board and they link the police department with the Citizen Review Board. Oh, that's the same thing. Why would I go to them?
Yeah.
They all work with each other, for each other. Why would I go to them? There's no separation of powers. And perception-wise, I mean, of course, we hear it, we know. You know what I mean? That's why I was saying, why don't we have our own? I understand the argument for inclusiveness, but
Yeah.
I think there's an argument against it too,
Yeah.
because if you're in the community and you have a problem with a police officer, I gotta go to the police officer's website. That's what
Yeah.
they're thinking,
Yeah.
to get answers to the problem that I have.
Yeah.
So I think we should push for something separate. You know, that's why I asked, do we have our own Facebook? Do we have, because we need to push those things as well. And they need to be able to upload links on the social medias. That's separate entities if we can't get our own website.
Yeah, and so
Not to get more work or nothing, but
I will tell you that currently in-house, I post on the Facebook. We are trying to figure out what way is the best way to do this and how we, you know what I mean, work, because Facebook's always changing too with certain parts of it. So we need to see how we can connect it. So when I post on the Facebook, it also goes to Instagram and vice versa, so that we continue to mirror the same stuff that's
Which can
happening.
happen, but-
Right, but we didn't have an Instagram page until most recently, and so with Grace working that out and us continuing to now play with it, to update it in a way so that we make sure that our social media presence is where it needs to be. We've thought about, do we want to have a Twitter as well? Do we want to,
TikTok,
you know what I mean?
all of that,
Yep.
all social media.
Yep, and
It's
so
powerful.
that's why I said another body in terms of a community engagement fellow or something of that nature is gonna help us continue to intertwine these things,
Well, Andy's
because,
young, he can do all that.
right. But in terms of, while we continue to onboard and while we continue to do what we're doing, anything that we put a whole lot of focus on, it takes away from the other day-to-day operations. So we just gotta make sure we get the, you know what I mean, enough bodies and stuff like that, because not only is he gonna be the community engagement specialist, but as you know, he has to be informed about everything as it relates to our process and things of that nature. So we're working through it, and by the first of the year, you know what I mean, we'll be in a better place, but that's the reason why we're moving the way that we're moving, to continue to move forward while still getting the day-to-day operations done in the office. Michael?
And we've been very reliant on the QR code actually since the turnover in the website. So I think until that really happens, we will still rely on that. And we can talk to our IT department about, if people Google Syracuse Police, file a complaint, that we show up on our new website there, which would be obviously ideal.
You wanted it just to be as easy in layman's terms as possible. That, what I just did is very complicated for me, because I didn't know. So just imagine if I knew nothing about the CRB, but I got a complaint, and I don't have a QR code. You know what I mean? You want to be able to type in CRB with everything, like, you know, with my nonprofit, if you type in Black Men United, it pops up everywhere, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of why we want to do the CRB, you know what I mean?
Makes sense. Thanks. Do you have anything on training, or what is that?
No, that's just it.
Okay.
And then the government relations, we just continue to work with, the city on whatever we need to kind of work with them about. We do have we have a discovery demand, that recently came out that we'll need to spend time, as it relates to that. FOIL requests, we have to do those in-house as well and work with the law department on those. There is going to be a training that was coming up in June. And we will be circulating that information. I put it in the email to all the board members, as it relates to some additional training, in terms of trauma responses and, that we wanted to do. And so I think that the amount, the days were sometime in the first week in June, and the amount was somewhere around, there was a registration and all of that, that I put in the email to everyone. Let's see if I can pull it up. Is it not in the folder? Okay.
Who's doing the training?
So that was one of the questions that we were going to ask, because typically, it would definitely be great to do, the administrator going to the training, but also the office staff as it relates to the training, and any board member that we could get to go to the training as well, because everybody has to deal with trauma informed, you know what I mean, trauma, people who have dealt with trauma. And this particular training was able to focus on those types of skills that we so desperately need, as it relates to those kind of things. I'm just trying to pull up the link.
Throw in the ring.
Yes.
Noble, Timothy Jennings Bay.
Yes, I want to include him in on the, and on our annual training, and have him come in and talk about what he's seen in our community. So he is on the list for related to that. He is also on the list for a speaker, at the time of our 30-year anniversary to talk about his time on the board and also just the community aspect, because he was around right after the revamp of the CRB. So we have him on our list, and he has agreed to speak, and we continue to work with other people who were around. We spoke with Charles Anderson most recently to talk about what happened in the 1993 legislation and some of the key people we will have to speak about that. We have also spoken with Assemblywoman Hunter, because she was the one who helped to revamp it in 2011 and work with those people. So we intend to have we continue to have a robust discussion so that we make sure that the right people are in the room and the right people we are talking to, as it relates to talking about what it took to get the revamp, what it took initially.
So this is all local, what happened in Syracuse?
Correct. Nope,
Because
this
there's
is,
national people too who
yeah.
do big,
Yeah, so for our 30th anniversary celebration, it is going to be related to local.
Okay.
And we wanted to do that on purpose.
Okay.
We wanted to focus on what were the things that led up to the 1993 legislation locally and why it kind of happened. Some of those things that were happening nationally, because Rodney King was around in that period of time, but we wanted to make sure that people know the local history as to why the CRB. So we're gonna do the past, the present, and what are we trying to do in the future. But we need to make sure that people understand why we are where we are and how we get to where we want to go to. And so that's kind of the stuff that you're talking about, other places that have different CRBs and things of that nature. That will be, forward thinking and how we get there.
gotcha.
I found the email.
Okay.
Yes. 2023 Zero Abuse Project Summit, June 7th through June 9th.
Yep.
And to get the early bird pricing, we need to buy tickets by the end of January.
Okay. And so we would either need to take a vote as it relates to that this month, or we would have to take it no later than our January meeting. So whatever the board
Right.
prefers.
I would like to just put it out there to see how many people are gonna be able to go.
Okay. Yep. So let's look at that. And please look at that email. Let us know whether or not that is something that you would want to go to. But I mean, we need to know ASAP because we want to get that early bird special.
Burnett sent the email out on the 21st of November, if that helps you find it.
Okay,
I
so,
can forward it.
Send it.
I'll re-forward it right now.
Thank you, Michael.
but yep, so let's make sure we look at that so that we get those ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And if we could start to, because even with the funding that we got through the police department, there are certain kind of quarters and things of that nature that we gotta look at, so we wanna make sure we don't leave money on the table.
Right.
Amen.
Okay, yeah, really. The police
Trying to use
relations,
all the money we get.
spend every penny. Police relations, I met with, members of the police department Wednesday, not yesterday. Today's-
That was yesterday.
That was
Yeah.
yesterday, it must have been Tuesday.
It was
then.
Tuesday, yes.
Yeah, the days all run together when you're retired, okay? Trust me on
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
The one thing that we had discussed in the previous meeting was how the board could make recommendations that did not include discipline, but did include having conversations with the officers that were involved. I brought that up, and apparently our attorney and the city attorney are working on that.
Yeah, so
How
let
we
me
can do
just break that down a little bit more. So in cases so we will still make recommendations as it relates to discipline after hearings, okay? If the board finds that the finding was sustained, okay? Let's make sure that that is clear, okay? We also, in that same time, we make policy and training recommendations from hearings in which the board decides that the finding against the officer has been sustained. What this is that if the board decides to vote a case before the board decides not to vote a case to a hearing. But we want them to remind an officer about their particular behavior, but it doesn't rise to a level that it violates policy. But we need to make this officer still be aware of how their behavior is affecting the community. Then in the letter, we typically state that, and it's also if there are cases that we review that are outside the 18-month time frame in which an officer can be disciplined. So when you look at those aspects, we still want this officer spoken to about their behavior, but we know the department can't discipline them. And we know that it doesn't rise to the level where it violates a policy. So therefore, what we are establishing is a process in which the police department will still address these concerns to the officer and their personnel evaluation at the end of the year. They will still get our letter in a timely manner that addresses this, that says, hey, the CRB voted your case not to a hearing, but we want to remind you of yada, 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 yada. But at the time of their personnel evaluation, it will be reiterated by the sergeant. So that's what we're working to do. So I want to make sure that we're very clear. We're still going to do what is based upon our legislation and what we can do, but we're also wanting to make sure that even when we don't have cases that go that way, that this officer is still spoken to in terms of their personnel evaluation. Does that sound clear?
Yes.
So
Okay.
we're not sitting in the room with an officer telling him what he did wrong and expecting him to change.
Right.
That's not what's being said.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Say that one more
I
time.
don't know that I
So if an
understand.
officer does something wrong, but he doesn't, it doesn't rise to the level of being disciplined, are we expecting the officer to sit in the room with us and
No.
just tell him
That's,
what
no.
we saw?
No.
We're expecting the police department to do
Right,
that.
which is not gonna happen. So,
But what I'm saying is that, but listen, what I'm saying is that we are still sending our letter. This is the key part. So before, what we have worked out is the chief saying that this is what we will do. All right? That's never happened before, okay? If the case doesn't rise to the level of discipline and there's no hearing and there's no recommendation, we are now getting something that says that the chief has agreed that the sergeant for this particular officer is going to go over this in their evaluation. Again, we are still sending our letter that we expect to get to the officer as well, but then now for it to be reiterated. I can't say that it's not gonna happen, but in my mind, if I have you to agree to something that you haven't agreed to before, to acknowledge the fact that the CRB is stating that we reviewed this particular case, we recognize this, and you are stating that you'll have this reviewed in their personnel evaluation, that's better than what we've gotten in the past.
so it's
And
just a paper trail, basically, in
Well,
hopes of.
Because currently, it's either discipline or nothing.
And
that's
if there is no discipline, this doesn't get discussed in your personnel evaluation.
But
I get what you're saying.
Right.
Because
Now,
it might-
I mean, now you have
it
to
might still
really-
be the same
Well,
thing.
point is well taken, but we have to think about where we were.
Can we ask, okay, I guess what I'm asking is, can we ask that we be a part of that meeting with the sergeant? That's what I'm basically trying to
We can
see-
ask, but I
see
would
the
guess
meeting.
that-
See, that's it.
that
To make sure that we
contractually-
know.
Right, but we
The
would
problem that
have,
we have is that we also have the police contract that we have to pay attention to. And I'm gonna guess that there's nothing in the police contract that says that outside people other
That's a good guess.
than police people.
Right,
Which a lot of this started with, one of the things that has happened in the past, and is because, I've got some union work in my history, and so does Hatisha. And things that we had talked about at the end of a hearing, or even at an executive session, were things like, there's just something wrong here, should it be disciplined? No. But we do want them to be aware that we're watching this, and we think that you were wrong. And there is no process within SPD to make that happen right now. And that's what we're working on, is getting some sort of process where the police officer, from our perspective, has done something that they need to be spoken to in one way, shape, or form. And we're just, at this point, the attorneys are getting together to try to figure out how to do that legally.
Because it's like that on purpose.
I'm sure it is.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Right,
So-
but
Right,
it's,
and so we're trying to backdoor change
Yeah,
it.
no, I understand. I understand exactly.
Right.
I'm just saying, how do we, without it feels like we need to put that language in there.
Well, I think what happens now is if we send something to the chief and to everyone says, this is our recommendation, we get a response to, yes, we agree, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. We want the answer also to be able to be, yes, we're gonna use this other process now, and the person will be spoken to during their
So
evaluation.
you want two options?
So we want
like-
two options that we, and when you think about it right now, why do you think we have to subpoena officers? Because in their current contract, it does not state that you have to go and attend a CRB hearing. So therefore, we have to subpoena. So as Lori was telling you, so therefore, if it's not in the contract for you to participate in the CRB process, there is no way that we can get this part in there if it doesn't come from the chief. And so therefore, if they're not willing to have them participate in the CRB process and that be part of the contract, we can ask and we can make the request. But this is our way of incorporating parts of our legislation where it was never finite. But we're able to work based upon our relationship with them to say, hey, we still need to have this other avenue. And that's why we agreed also that in order for an officer to attend the hearing, they need to be subpoenaed. Because if not, they're not even going to get in the room to hear what the complaint, when they are interviewed by ops, they get to hear what the complaint is about. But then they don't get to hear in person from the person about what took place and how their interaction with them made them feel. So we're doing everything that we can to have that double conversation as much as possible. They are also acknowledging that they will not issue final discipline to an officer until after the CRB finishes its process, which means that if we recommend this case to go to a hearing, even if the department recommends discipline, they are not going to discipline the officer and sign off on it until we are finished. That's why it's important for us to schedule these hearings. Because if we don't hold these hearings within that 18 months, then the time goes.
Absolutely.
And therefore now we potentially have an officer that the department recommended discipline, but we didn't finish our process, so nothing gets going. Now they will initiate the discipline if it is the 18-month time frame is getting close. So if they know that with the way our process works, it's not going to get there in enough time, and they think that the officer should be disciplined, they're going to go ahead and discipline them. But if you think about it, these are things that we never had. And so that's what I want to make sure that we keep in mind. That although it may seem like smoke and mirrors in terms of the fact that, oh, they're going to speak to them during their personnel review, we've never had them agree to that. We've never, and this was something that was agreed upon by the union attorney and the chief, and now we're working legally to put it in a letter so that it can get done. That's not happening before. So I just want to make sure we are clear as to we get your point and we understand. But if we can get them to agree to state that they're going to speak to this person in their personnel evaluation, then that's.
And this can't be written into law by common council. Excuse my ignorance, I don't know. But
So there are portions of the CRB legislation that, yes, we would like to revamp, but we want to make sure we revamp the whole thing all at the same time. But in order to do this, we have to have other pieces in place. And then you have to have a common counselor who is willing to initiate the first draft of it, speak to the other people on the council for them to agree to pass new legislation. It's a process. But while we are still within the legislation that we have, we're trying to get as much as we can get before that happens.
So do we have legislation on paper to get there?
So
Proposed legislation on paper?
we have thought about proposed changes as it relates to the legislation, but some of those changes would have to do with timeframes for investigations. There's so much that kind of goes into it that we want to make sure that we have the appropriate staff to make sure when we make these recommendations, we can handle it.
That's true.
So we can't propose changes and ask things that we can't do as a board.
There are notes.
There-
There's not written legislation recommendations.
I'd love to sit in a meeting with common council. I know them all, so.
But you get what I'm saying? But these are the type of things, but when we come to them, we can say, between the department and the CRB, these are the things that we have worked on, and now we need these changes into the legislation in order to do that. But the proof is always in the pudding. And you know what I mean? And the stuff that you do on the back end before you go to the front is what works out best, and to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Michael?
Yeah, and that's just our data analysis, honestly, and not to be selfish, but like, we can show how many times has the chief given us a response, how many times has it been unsatisfactory, what wards are these complaints coming from, et cetera. We can do all of this. We just need the funding. We really just need the resources.
Right, and so we don't want to put, as they say,
For the manpower?
Data for
right,
him to-
we don't want to
Yeah,
put,
more or less.
Data for him to.
right,
just
and
have a
again, you
question.
just want to make sure we don't put the cart before the horse.
I have a
Get
question.
what I mean? And we don't want to change this and then we aren't able to fulfill it.
My question is in regards to the process that you were just mentioning. At the end, is the officer required to sign anything
Yeah,
acknowledging
so
that he
they,
were?
just like
Okay.
every personnel evaluation, the officer has to acknowledge that this information was
Gotcha.
gone over to them. And currently, we are receiving the officer's disciplinary record. So we are able to see whether or not they have been disciplined by the department before, and that should be an added part into their personnel evaluation. But we have to work with the processes that we have,
Gotcha.
all right?
Cool.
And that's really, I mean, we talked about, we do have a list of cases that came from, ops, that they're wondering where we are in our process with them because they're trying to wrap up their end of it as well, so, I did give that list to Renat. Now there's about 20 cases on there, I think, that we're
Yep.
gonna compare and see where everybody
And some
is.
of them are out for investigation.
Right.
And some of them, we're still working through,
Some of
so,
them look pretty new.
yeah. Some of them are, I mean, we would like to be on 22 cases, 22 cases, we're on a combination.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, we know how our limited office staff works. And again, when we focus on data analysis, which includes me, when we don't have a data analysis, guess what? That means I can't investigate cases. When I focus on community engagement and we don't have a community engagement person, that means cases don't get investigated. So it's just the way that the process works. And so that's why we all have to be on board to try to do what we can as a group to make sure we get what we get done. All right.
Okay, are there any community organizations that wish to speak? Are you a community organization or a person?
I'm the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Do you want to talk as the president of that organization, or do you want to
This
talk
is
as
so
yourself?
muttered, it's a little different.
Can you stand up front?
Well, it doesn't matter.
No,
Come
no,
on,
I'm,
just
because I know
speak.
you have reflections, or I don't have a,
Just speak.
Just know that there are, if you're a community organization, you
I
have
know they don't like
five-
for people to talk, so I just want to make sure that what I'm speaking,
Right.
The
yeah.
only thing that I would like to reiterate is that if it is a community organization, you have 5 to 10 minutes to talk. If you are making a public comment, you only have 5 minutes to talk. So that's why we're trying to figure out which one you are.
Go on, yeah,
You can do
so,
both.
No, I don't want anybody yelling and arguing. Last time I was here, it was crazy, so, I'll just wait until the comment. You want me to have 5 minutes, is what you're saying?
No,
we
I'm
want you to
asking.
have,
I was speaking to Ms.
we
Nelson.
want you to have the choice. Do you want up to 10 minutes?
I'll wait for 5 minutes.
Well, come on up and speak,
And can you identify?
because that would be next, so
I'm
either
at a
way.
Democratic convention.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
I'm Reverend Dr. L. Michael Dexter II. Forgive my appearance, but I felt like it was necessary to come out tonight. I have like 8 senior citizens that have contacted the police department to have charges filed against people that have either done crimes against them, and the police department is refusing to meet back with those folk, and that's been since July. One particular one since July. I need to know what we're doing for our community. Now, I heard about Miss Hunter. God bless her heart. She has some place in heaven with Hillary Clinton. There are some of us that have worked in the trenches with the CRB when there was just Joey and a secretary. They came to my church, and our staff filled out the application or the structured paperwork for them to submit, and he had a whole lot going on. So we were able to corral the community. Now, when you're calling out this church or you're calling out that center, my church is on South Ave, where they love to stop little children of color and disadvantaged white children and handcuff them because they have tinted windows and run through their back of the car and do all sorts of kind of things. But the police department is not adhering to following up with criminal complaints. The hot spot is still on South Ave area. It's like when you call, some of these folk have called at least 15, 20 times. This week, last 2 weeks, I've called myself for a couple individuals at least 10 times. No one has come. No one has come. And so if you want to talk about community engagement, you need to get with some of the people that are willing to say what they have to say. This gentleman right here, he'll say what he has to say as well. He's here. A lot of us stop coming because it's become so, it just has not been working the way it should have been working, all right? And there was a lawsuit that was filed, and that lawsuit with Mr. Frank Fowler, as you all know him, that said, okay, well, listen, these officers are not being disciplined, and he was one of them. You all found him guilty of impersonating the officer with an individual and trying to hit someone. He didn't punish himself, and this CRB was like, okay, he needs to punish himself. So it was a group of us that was used. We didn't know. They went to court. There was a lawsuit saying that these officers should be held accountable, not where someone's writing a letter and saying, okay, well, as long as you talk to them and then this person agrees that they're going to talk to them. No, you need something concrete, and you have the tools to do that. It's in writing. We won that case. You need to utilize that. You all have the tools to better this community for whether you're white, black, green, orange, or polka dot, not to do quick pro quo. And then the other thing that just dropped in my mind was you got money from the police department to fund a 30-year program. I knew nothing about the community involvement. We would have given, we just said you got money from the police
No,
department.
we get a grant through the police department for training.
It's from the federal government. It's
Okay.
from the Department of Justice.
And you just helped me with that part too. Some of the things that you were saying were like, we're getting money for this and to do this with and that with. I didn't hear what you were doing the money with, where it was going. I know there's a lot of information within the 5 minutes. And then I heard these two gentlemen's name, but I never heard who your investigator was. So all I'm saying in a nutshell is if we could possibly know when the CRB is going to be open. I understand that you're moving to one park place and you're in 2 different places, but when you have people come down and they're trying to get there, I took a ton of a few that you had and had some copies made. My secretary made some copies so that we can be able to help the community. Southwest Community Center, that's fine, but you have to get in the trenches sometimes in order to get certain things done. And people that you don't like, sometimes you have to work with them in order to get something done, okay? So all I'm saying is that I'm hearing a lot of spins, but I'm not hearing anything substance to where it's actually benefiting our community as a whole. I moved back here in 2013. I was born here. I'm from Florida, raised in Florida, but I was born right here on Burn Dairy Milk and Terrell potato chips, contrary to popular belief. But this is a whole different thing going on now, okay? And so we need each one of us that are seasoned and well looking at this time and age to be able to make sure that our kids they have something later on. Because what we're doing right now, we're not even aiding our seniors. Our seniors are going by the wayside. And you have officers out there that still have attitudes when they stop someone. They want you to call them officer. They don't want to call you by their first name. The only reason why they don't deal with me now like that, and they really didn't before, because they run my tag. and then they keep moving. Okay? So all I'm saying to you is that you need to talk to some of us that were there. So when you're calling people to come on your 30th, you need to make sure that you have somebody like folk that was here when it started. Those of us that are peons, I don't mind just sitting in the back. I don't have to have anything to say, but we did support, even though we might not agreed all the time, Joey and I, but we worked well together. Okay? This room was full with people. That's what we need to do. And at this point in time, for some of what I've heard, and, we need to reignite this. That's all I had to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You can answer any of those questions you want if you can remember any of them.
What church you said you're from?
New Salem Baptist Church.
So, I will attempt to answer your questions. The CRB is open Monday through Friday. The hours are 9 to 5. We have been out in the community doing community engagement events, so therefore there are times when the CRB office is closed where we are at a community engagement event. In terms of the senior citizens that you speak of that have been trying to get contact from the police department, if you are able to provide me, or if they are able to schedule a time, they can all come to our office and we can discuss what the days, times, and locations and all of that kind of stuff in which they are talking about, so that we can do an investigation. In terms of who is the investigator,
Hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt. Or you can scan that code and is that back there? The sheet?
We don't have one right. It's in the brochure, yeah.
yes.
Do we have a brochure or something that we can give this gentleman?
Oh, you'd have to give me a brochure. I'm not one of those people that scan. I'm not scanning anything. I like to deal with people. I don't mean to sound rude. I like to deal with people. When I go to an office at 10 o'clock in the morning, if you're out doing community service, then so be it. But when I come several times and a senior comes and all of her money has been stolen, and then you have police officers thinking it's funny because she's a woman of color and at 80 years old, that breaks my heart. And then they can't find anybody. And I know I left a message and it was not returned. I know you and I have spoken on the phone. You probably answered my calls, but that bothers me. When people play with people's lives, someone lived that long and then they have someone mistreat them, and then you have, and I don't know what police chief you all were talking about with, as far as answering questions. We just received a new police chief with the one before. I'm not going to get on that, but just the data, I don't know where that came from, but someone reaching out and being able to come in and speak with you, there should be a notation or a number or something to be able to get in contact with someone.
So
It's just the number that you're calling and you're getting a recording, because you got a lot of staff. Because he had one person.
But,
oh wait, but go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But the times have changed where you don't just walk up to people. I understand what you're saying, you know what I mean? In the times of mom and pop stores, you would just go in a corner store and you would talk to somebody and you got to know that person, got to feel their energy, but a quicker response, because if you were listening, we're kind of underfunded and understaffed, and she's imploring us to step up so we can help out and get things moving. So you probably get a faster response if you would follow the procedures that we're trying to lay out, because we're in a new time. It's 2022. Technology is vaster. It's not, the old ways are kind of gone of doing things. They are effective. I'm not saying that, but to get that, to get the ball rolling, you probably get a faster response.
Well, that's appreciated. But when one person, two people were running the office, and it was just in 2016, 2015, somewhere along that time frame, and you had a quicker turnaround, and technology is great, but when it comes down to certain folk like senior citizens that are not able, and some of them are pretty swift at it, okay? The turnaround is a turnaround no matter what, because you can email people to, and they still don't respond.
Yeah, we're not
But I
talking
understand
about
that.
email.
Well,
We're
even the
talking
QR code.
Complaint forms.
Well, complaint forms.
These are complaints.
Right, they're complaint. Well, even you're getting a complaint form and you're doing it digital. You got 4 of them that someone did. You're dealing with people in Syracuse that don't even want to get together to buy a loaf of bread. So to get them in the mindset of going on the computer to do something, they're thinking in their mind, because we've had this conversation before, that it's just going to go into the shuffle and that person to get to them and they can get to it. Because right now, I'm seeing more people that's working for this CRB than I've ever seen.
And that's only for the
been
last
last
month. It's been for a
Just
month.
so you know, it's only been a
let's- Okay,
But the way it was spent.
that,
the way-
it
wait a
wasn't
minute, wait a minute,
spent
wait a minute,
anyway.
Let me make a statement. The way it was spent, because you never said that they just started last month. I didn't hear you say that. I heard you say we got these folk and they shifted positions. And I assume, you're not supposed to assume anything, that just recently happened.
No, she said it.
I wouldn't have, well, I have to go back and listen to the.
Yeah, she said it.
Look, I would have to go back and listen to it. But my understanding was that you had someone that came in from the university and they were leaving out, but that's neither here nor there. I'll take the pamphlet from you, but my.
Because you can do it. If they're senior citizens and they can't do it themselves, you can do it as an ambassador for them and scan it and help them out. Because it takes all of us to, you know, we're trying to get it done.
Right, and I've been doing that for years. I just have slowed down just recently, but evidently it's time to come back and do some more, whether it's ambassador or not. What I'm saying is that even if you do it, the turnaround. Someone that has medicine that's $400 a month, and you have officer coming out making jokes and thinking it's funny, and not coming back since July, and it's December. You do, and then they still call. They not responsible, and then they don't.
You keep going up the.
And that's been going on for the longest.
But that's not something that you going to the CRB office for that complaint isn't gonna. The complaint is what they did. If they feel abused or neglected, then you come to the CRB.
I know the function of the CRB. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that the officer not doing their job, and then they're being insulted, and they're doing things outside the scope of their job, which they should be doing their job, but they're being racially motivated in what they're doing. I don't want to go into specifics, because the CRB doesn't like to be able to talk about specific cases when we're in the middle of it. Okay, so what I'm saying is I don't need to be educated. I'm just saying with you that in the past, this ball has been dropped severely, and I appreciate you what you're doing. I'm just trying to get a level, because if someone has that connect with the police department, such as that, to getting letters written and getting taps on the hand, this is why these folk are still out in the street beating the hell out of children and seniors, and dragging people down and beating people's wives and sending people to prison and letting them out and giving them money. You know, that kind of crap needs to stop, is what I'm saying. And then this is the forefront of that. Overstepping boundaries and stuff. Yeah, I don't want to take y'all time, because y'all got other things you need to do. I just want to be able to do that. So I hear what Ms. Rutherford is saying. I'll get you the information. I just want to make sure someone's there and is actually listened to, whether you're able to do something with it or not, or whether you even think it's bariatric excrement leaking out of these 80-year-old mouths. It's your choice. But mine is that theirs were valid. They came to me. I came and expressed with my house shoes on to make sure I was here tonight, because you had 2 dates on a different site that you were the first Thursday, because it's 2 Thursdays. We're the second Thursday now. Yeah. So I'm here. I said what I had to say. I don't want to hold you all up. All right?
Thank you.
You don't have to answer any more
We
questions.
do have a brochure.
You had it on
I did find that.
And as far as the hot spot that you mentioned on South Ave, I would recommend that anyone that's watching this or that you may know, try to get them involved in the the Southside TNT meetings as much as possible, because they're.
We did that. I was over the Southside TNT. We had 5 people when I was done. No, the reason they had so many people was because I went in, and they went from 5 to almost 200 people. Okay. So it's all about engaging and getting people to come out.
Can I just ask
Yes.
one thing? Is there a particular day and location that we can come meet at a particular spot in their particular neighborhood and meet with them, instead of you coming down to the
I
CRB
know you
office?
don't want to see me, but I
Listen.
just
Can you let me finish, sir? Can you let me finish? If there is a space that is preferred by the individuals, the 10 individuals that you are speaking of, that you would like us as the CRB to come meet with them at this particular location on a particular day and time, call our office, listen,
Oh, I wasn't saying anything. I'm breathing.
okay, call our office, leave a message with that specific date and time, give me 2 dates and 2 times as it relates to where we can come and we will come have this conversation in their location, in their place where they feel comfortable.
Okay, so it's a little unorthodox because normally one or two people come, not the whole CRB.
I'm not saying the whole CRB, because you asked who the investigator is.
Let me finish, I'll let you,
I was gonna,
I know, but let me just say this.
Okay.
Two people suffice for these individuals, these 8 individuals. If the whole CRB wants to come out and you want to come and meet with whoever, however, I'll be more than glad to do that as well. It was just paramount that someone hears this part of it. That's all I'm saying. It's not so much to come and attack. It's more of, I want you to know that there's some people that's out there and some of what you're saying is not cohesive with the community outside. You know, I'm just saying to you.
I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to answer your questions. I'm trying to provide you with an alternative
I accept what you're saying.
solution to what you're stating is one of the problems that you have. So we can schedule that, provide me with 2 dates and times, leave it on the voicemail if somebody should happen to not answer, and we will schedule that to take place. You asked about the investigator. I am the primary investigator of complaints. The outside private investigator that we have is Freeland Investigation Services. That's been said a number of times as it relates to the board as to who our private investigator is. And so therefore, it was said in last month's meeting about the community engagement person starting. It was said in last month's meeting about how our data analysis was now going to be Mr. Britton, who had previously been our legal secretary. So the CRB meetings are up on YouTube. If you have to go back and listen to a few so you can kind of catch up to where we are, it's up there and available. And also we have meeting minutes that have that information as well. I think I've answered all the questions that you may have presented, and
Well, it's kind
Mustafa.
of you to do that and try to at least, you know. So, thank you.
Mustafa?
Yes, I just want to, I said, the CRB made some big progress. I've been coming up here for 10, 11 years now, straight. 10, 11 years straight. And I seen when it was down, I seen when it first started in 2012, 2011, and the progress that's been made up here. He went away. He just started from, matter of fact, this is the first time I've seen him since that last time him and Cal came up here and then got mad because it was a 3-minute time limitation. I ain't seen him up here since. He just said, this is the first time I've seen him back up here since then. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying if he really want to be involved, he need to come up here and hear, if he like being fair, he need to come up here and listen. Like I've been coming up here for 10, 11 years straight. You see, I remember some stuff like that. I remember, you know, all this situation and all that stuff right there. I remember I went to the Supreme Court when the CRB won that case and something like that. I was participating in all that. You see, so I'm saying I see the progress that the CRB is making. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff going on. You gotta like that. I'm saying we didn't have them before. You see what I'm saying? We only had Joey and Betty. You know what I'm saying? So it's a progress, and I'm saying I see the progress because I've been coming up here listening and so on like that, and I know what's going on. If a person don't participate, they don't know what's going on. They just talking or going by what they hear, and people always talk about something they don't know what they're talking about. Because if they don't participate, they don't know what the heck is going on or the progress that's being made. You know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just on a note for myself, I wasn't arguing about the minute of time. That was him and the other gentleman. So they can take as long as they want, as short as they want. This is the most that I've said what I've had to say. And I wouldn't give a Lincoln Continental old hubcap to anybody to say, 'cause I'm gonna stand up for what's right.
All right, can I have a motion to go to executive session?
Motion.
Thank you, Richard. Second?
Quick.
I think
Second.
All in favor?
Either one.
Aye.
Okay, we'll be going into executive session. Thank you. Thank you both for coming.
It was a pleasure meeting all of you that I think I've been most.
See you again.
Thank you.